Good evening, everyone. This is Tyler Wells, Chair of the Office of Clinical Studies. I'm just doing a audio check just to make sure that those who are present this evening with us can hear us. So if you can please um, type something into the text box indicating that you can hear me or you can hear my voice, that'd be very helpful. Thanks. Great. So next few minutes we'll begin. We've got about 3 more minutes until we officially start. So knowing that it is a Sunday evening, and I'm very happy that we do actually have a nice turnout so far. I promise not to be too long, and so we'll start officially at 8. And if you can hear me, please indicate with either a thumbs up, smiley face, or a text response saying you can. Just want to make sure that everyone can hear. And also, don't hesitate during the session as we begin to chime in via text or chat or by voice. Please feel free to do so. So again, we'll take the next 2 to 3 more minutes, wait for others to join in, and then we'll begin. Thanks again for joining me this evening. Okay, good evening again, everyone. My name is Tyler Wells. I'm the chair of the Office of Clinical Studies. We have a relatively good turnout this evening, which I appreciate everyone for jumping in on a Sunday evening. This is one of 2 preliminary meetings that we'll be holding for the year-long residency. It is also an advanced meeting prior to the presentations that'll be done during and within the practicum 1, 2, and 3 class sessions this fall. So sometime this month in November, we'll have various individuals who are mentor teachers, supervisors of residency candidates, our graduates who have obtained positions, jobs, and their work to date and so forth. So they'll be coming in and doing presentations in your classes, and can respond to additional questions. So to just to make sure we're all on the same page, this is obviously for our academic year 1920 year-long residency option. Thank you for joining me this evening on a Sunday, chilly Sunday evening, but certainly one where I will not promise, I promise not to take too much of your time, but at least I think provide some preliminary information that will help you make a decision as to if this is an option that works for you, is right for you. And as you gain more information about the option and the program, how you can either move forward with interest and so forth. So we'll cover all of that this evening. And I know that we have a few more individuals jumping in, which is great. That's not a problem. And I've done one audio check, just making sure that you can hear me. If you are experiencing some trouble or issues, let me know. Send me a chat or a text. And if not, I'm just going to go ahead and move forward. So this evening, it is, again, a preliminary or initial meeting for the year-long residency option academic year 2019-2020. And the reason why I say that, obviously, is that this is a year-long residency experience, and we'll go into what that means and some definitions. But to give you a brief little history as to where the residency came from, truly started through a particular report that was provided by the National Council for Accreditation of Teacher Education, and that's called NCATE or NCATE. Now, NCATE, back in November 2010, which would be now 8 years ago, clearly indicated that there was a need to enhance clinical practice or clinical application. And you may have heard this change occurring at Wilmington University through peers and whatnot. In 2013 and 14, we made significant alterations to the clinical aspects of programming for teacher prep, teacher education, because we knew that there needed to be additional rigor, focus, enhanced practice of our candidates. And out of this change in conversation, we began to converse about an opportunity for our candidates to engage in not just practicum and student teaching, but a more immersive experience in the settings that we assign our candidates to. Some other history that you may or may not know about, Delaware, as an example, is very much like the other states in the tri-state area or on the eastern seaboard, such as PA and Jersey and so forth. In 2010, it was not uncommon to have student teaching last only 10 weeks. That's roughly 60 days or less. Currently here at Wilmington University, we have an 80-day student teaching requirement. However, in various states around us, we are now seeing introduction of state-mandated residency requirements or full year teaching requirements. New Jersey just implemented theirs this past year, just came into play fall of 2018. Every teacher preparation program in the state of New Jersey requires all of their candidates to go through a residency type of year-long immersive experience. So what we're looking at here and what we have done is acknowledge that even though state of Delaware still only requires a certain requirement for student teaching, we know that there needs to be a culture change, a mindset shift that focuses more so on clinical practice. And what this means to you as the teacher, I mean the educator, the candidate, is that This experience focuses more so on a connection with the mentor teacher and the district. And so that's what we're going to do this evening, explain it to you, give you some information that'll help you move forward, and hopefully answer some questions about what the year-long residency experience is all about. And then, of course, beyond that, if there are additional conversations and questions, then you can reach out to me. I am recording this session for yourself if you wish to watch it again, to either look at something that I'm sharing with you, and or if you want to hear something again, and also to share with peers who cannot or who are not able to join us this evening. So let's define our year-long residency experience. So the option provides our candidates a 200 plus day experience. This is a full immersive experience in which the candidate, such as yourselves, would start at the beginning of the school year when the teacher returns from summer break. He or she begins to establish and set his or her classroom in readiness for the children to arrive. You would participate in all the professional development that happens before the children arrive. You would be there working with the assigned mentor teacher and engaging with starting up, readying, preparing. You would work with him or her, the mentor teacher, in terms of collaborating, revolving around curriculum and curriculum refinement, planning and preparation of curriculum for the academic year. You are essentially identified as a co-teacher in that classroom. Now, of course, you are not yet employed by that district. However, the district and the school looks at you and sees you as someone as such, as a co-teacher in the classroom setting. So this program is one where we place you in a cohort of candidates or peers. So as an example, at one of our school sites, excuse me, in the Colonial School District at Eisenberg Elementary, there are 3 mentor teachers, and with those mentor teachers, each has an assigned year-long residency candidate. Since the beginning of the school year, when they came back from the summer break, our candidates were with their assigned mentor teacher, and they went and are now obviously day to day to day, Monday through Friday, start of school to the end of school, working with this mentor teacher and the cohort, the 3 mentor teachers and the 3 other candidates in this particular school setting. The idea is in a cohort based, not just by yourself with a mentor teacher, but the cohort base allows you to engage with your peers, to work collaboratively together with them. You can then work with the other mentor teachers in the cohort setting, and you are able to engage not only in just conversation, dialogue, planning, preparation, professional learning communities, but you also can engage in the other mentor teacher's classroom as well. The design allows for that flexibility. Our approach to the year-long residency has relatively 4 main areas or categories. You are looking at co-teaching as a means to work together with the mentor teacher in either supportive or parallel or complementary or team teaching approaches. Now, this is not something that happens from day one. This is something, though, that the mentor teacher, who is trained, who has received professional development, who has worked very closely with Wilmington University in preparing for you as a candidate to enter into his or her room, is then working as the year moves on, to engage in these various levels of co-teaching environments. But it's not just co-teaching to be one person teaching, one person to watch, or both teaching at the same time. Co-teaching connects to what we like to call the learning cycle in the year-long residency. It's if you will, a cyclical event of planning and preparation, enactment, or actually teaching lessons, having the immediate feedback from an expert teacher who then allows you to then go back and redesign and rework on your lessons next time as you progress day to day to day and throughout the academic year. One of the aspects, or the more interesting aspects of, again, our residency, allows for this connection with the mentor teacher through this co-teaching environment, through a process which we call gradual release of responsibility. And please know I don't expect you to remember every little word I'm saying tonight, but again, high-level kind of view, if you will. But this role, this process, what we call gradual release of responsibility, connects with co-teaching. It allows you, the candidate, as you progress and learn day to day to day, to take on more control. It's what we call, or what we focus in on, we watch, or if I'm the candidate, I watch and observe. Then the mentor teacher and the candidate, we work together. Then the next step is the candidate takes control and the mentor teacher engages with as the candidate is taking control. And then the final step is the candidate or the resident takes full control. And this process lives and breathes within co-teaching, because there's then what we call an interplay, or a back and forth between the co-teacher and the mentor teacher. Essentially, the mentor teacher is your coach, guide, liaison through the academic year, engaging in all layers of academics, curriculum, classroom management, and professionalism. So where we are right now, in academic 18-19, the academic year 18-19, we currently have these sites in these school districts. We have in Red Clay, Capital, Cesar, well, I should say, Red Clay, Capital, Colonial, Apo, and Indian River. Cesar Rodney is being added into academic 19, so I apologize for that. But Red Clay, Capital, Colonial, and Apo, and Indian River are the districts in which we now have year-long residency candidates engaging in their experience. These school sites are not chosen, they're not just chosen off whim. These were sites that were selected for various reasons. And it's important that you as interested candidates know why we selected these sites and the teachers who are there. The majority, if not all, of these sites serve children at least at 50% of the poverty line, meaning that the majority of the students who attend these schools, many of them are identified in the poverty area or lower socioeconomic status, receiving free lunch, breakfast, or reduced lunch and breakfast. And as such, that is where our initial area or our initial focus for our residents. In addition to that, the level of diversity within these schools is equally, or what we would call 50% or greater, meaning these particular school sites are extremely diverse in nature, the varying learners, and that diversity word, or the word diversity, focuses in on various aspects, not just ethnicity, but also developmental and learning capabilities, the various levels of, let's say, individuals who are identified as special education. So what you're going to find at these school sites and at the various school sites that we are looking to incorporate as we move forward are specifically geared to where new teachers would be hired, or that the school sites that you engage in are going to be very similar to the other school sites that where employment is available. And I will give you an example. We are looking and working with the Christina school districts in the hope that we can engage in a residency at Christina school district. There are a number of elementary schools and middle schools in the Christina school district that are very like the school sites that you see in front of you now. As such, knowing that there are going to be a high employment rate coming in academic year 1920, 2021, and 21-22, what we're looking to do is place our candidates in situations and settings where you as the candidate would then be adequately prepared for employment, and that those districts and those schools would want to hire you because your participation in the year-long residency. As such, as a note, currently, when we began the residency in 14-15, academic year 14-15, we started with 9 students, and we started with Red Clay, Capital, and Indian River with just 9 students. This year, we have 32 students, as you see, placed at various school sites across the state of Delaware. Now, out of all of our students who have gone through the residency program, we have all but one who is actively employed and also was hired. Reason being, that individual went into the military. However, that gives us about a 98-99% hire rate, meaning those individuals who are in the year-long residency were either getting positions prior to the end of the residency or were hired thereafter. In addition to that, the retention rate of our candidates is equally as high, meaning candidates who are working through the residency at these sites and then are employed at similar sites or ones that are listed are apt to stay there longer because they are understanding more so the demands of the teaching profession. As you probably heard in your coursework to date, many candidates don't make it past year 3, their first 3 years of teaching, because they're not adequately prepared enough, and or they were not truly aware of what to expect. So, if you're still staying with me, I appreciate it. In terms of our programming, your coursework, you still have to register for coursework. However, and this is where the beautiful part of the residency comes into play, if you were selected for the residency, academic year 1920, then you would that year not come to campus at all. You would not come to Wilmington University campus. You would be taking, if you will, or working through, or what we call facilitation of your competencies during the school year at the school sites. So even though you would still register for Practicum 3 in the fall and your methods courses, and even though that spring of 2020 you would register for student teaching in your clinical assessment course as an undergraduate example, you would not come to Wilmington University campus. Everything is done at the schoolhouse. Your mentor teacher in which you are assigned is not only an expert mentor teacher, but they're also an adjunct of Wilmington University, and they facilitate the coursework, the requirements, the competencies, benchmarks, those things you have to learn in his or her classroom. Now, the registration and the coursework, that's something that I work closely with candidates as they are selected for the residency. When we are talking today as to implementation or preliminary review, it's more so a discussion about where you are as a candidate right now and what you have left over versus your level of interest for the residency. As an example, let's say that you've already taken 2 of your methods courses, and that's fine. That does not remove you from eligibility. In fact, I have a number of candidates who are participating in the residency this year who have already taken 2 out of the 4 methods courses in elementary, as an example, and are participating. I have, of course, a candidate who's at the high school who completed her high school methods pedagogy course, but wanted to participate in the residency and certainly could do so. This framework that you're seeing here, Practicum 3, methods that are connected to your program, student teaching, that is a rough framework that there is flexibility with. Now, I'm going to be the good teacher here. If there's at any point in time any questions, don't hesitate to interrupt me, folks. I'm happy to do so. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Don't hesitate to interrupt, is basically what I'm saying. So what I'd like to do then is just provide to you, again, some high-level expectations of requirements and how the program evaluates you as a candidate, what you will engage in, and so forth. So because the state has removed Praxis 1, that is no longer a requirement. So you are only required to pass Praxis 2 before you start the residency itself. So as such, the residency in academic year 1920 starts in August, roughly the second week of August. And as such, you would need to have passed Praxis 2. You, at the same time as a candidate, if we're eligible and selected, would need to have the tuberculosis, criminal background check, child protection registry, and our health form all done. Those are basic requirements of our particular programs. So Praxis 2 in your content area and those particular clearance requirements. So good question. What if you were done with all the methods courses by 2019? Jasmine, that's not an issue. We have students who are engaging right now this particular year who have all of their methods completed. The answer that you may want to know is that even though you have completed your methods coursework for the university, you would still have to, as a candidate for residency, and if you were selected and you entered into the year-long residency option, you would still have to complete methods units for your mentor teacher. You would not have to retake the course. So your courses, your methods course that you've taken, you wouldn't have to retake them, but you would have to build and construct and work with your mentor teacher on units of study within the content areas. So that still would be an expectation, but you don't have to retake the coursework. So our time frame for residency, briefly again, I mentioned it's the start of when the mentor teachers arrive from summer vacation. So to be very specific, you are to report, and if you were selected, you would report to your assigned mentor teacher that week that he or she comes back from summer vacation. Typically, it's a 1-week time frame prior to when the children arrive. Now, that's state law and contractual in nature, meaning each district sets up their own calendar and schedule of attendance and required time frame of their teachers. You would live and breathe by that calendar. So if the first week back was the 3rd week of August, you would then be with your mentor teacher that third week of August, working with him or her, setting up the classroom, going over everything, rules, expectations, protocol, so forth. And then the children the week after would arrive and school would begin. You would adhere to all calendar components or calendar requirements of the district. Days that are have off, days that are holidays, in service days, professional development days. Again, you are considered the co-teacher. You are directly connected to the experience. At the end of the academic year, per the calendar of the district, there's typically a end of school date for children, and then there's roughly a 2 or 3 day end of school year for the teacher. You would abide by that, ending, closing up shop, if you will, cleaning up, putting things away for the summer, and so forth. And so in terms of time frame, in terms of calendar, in terms of in terms of those requirements of a day-to-day come in, leave, a rule of thumb here is strongly followed. One, we arrive when our mentor teacher arrives. So if our school day starts at 8:30 and our mentor teacher gets there at 8, then that's when our candidate would get there. If the end of the school day is 3:30 and the mentor teacher leaves at 4 or 4:30, that is when you are leaving as well. It is through Monday through Friday, unless there is a day off for a holiday or the district has a day off for a particular reason. You, of course, as the candidate, are then expected to be there Monday through Friday as the calendar is constructed by the district. In terms of expectations, I am going to jump out of the PowerPoint for just a brief moment, and I am going to share with you a website that I will send out to all of you who have joined me this evening. And I know it's a little small, so I'll make it a little bit bigger so it's easier to read. At least I hope it is. And this particular website will provide to you all of the details that are connected to the year-long residency, from our description to the actual handbook. So I've jumped to the handbook here. Now on the left-hand side on the menu option provides all of the details revolving around the role of the mentor teacher, your supervisor's role, co-teaching as we see it within the residency. However, what I'd like to share with you is the gradual release of responsibility. And of course, I'm not going to read this document to you. I think it would be something that you, as an interested individual in this particular option, would want to take a look at and review, because what you'll see here is we have, if you will, categorized it by the month in which you would begin as a candidate and what your role is versus what the mentor teacher roles are and what it is that you're doing. This very clearly breaks down to an explicit telling of what you are to do during the residency. Now, of course, there are some other things here that are connected to the process that you will have questions about. Some things that are listed here may not make sense, and that's okay, because if selected and you are assigned a mentor teacher, we, Office of Clinical Studies, provides professional development to you, the candidate, prior to starting in the residency. And so those are expectations as well. If you're selected, you would engage in conversation in the months of March, April, May, June, and July, not all and every single month, but in that time frame, we would provide opportunity for face-to-face professional development and also virtual development to make sure that you are fully ready for the experience, fully engaged in understanding of the curriculum and, of course, the environment and the population being served. So this document that's part of the residency webpage goes into detail month to month to month. And if you can, and I would suggest you do this, download it and review it. It is a document that I think provides enough detail so that you can see the level of um, expectation, the level of rigor, the level of connectivity to not just the mentor teacher, but also the children that are being served, and also the greater community, because you are not just an 80-day student teaching candidate. Um, and not that the 80-day student teaching candidate is bad. It's not bad. It's at the residency level, you are more engaged in all facets of not just that classroom, but the entire building, the entire school. In fact, our candidates this academic year in those districts that I was sharing with you earlier, many of them are actually presenting at the district level. So imagine that. Imagine a candidate who's not even a teacher yet is working with other teachers in other schools, part of a district, and working with them at various levels in curriculum. And you can't find that in any other program. So again, review this for expectations and a review of where we go and what we do and what you do with your mentor teacher through the academic year. So last but not least, it is a conversation about our candidate selection process and what we do as the Office of Clinical Studies to not just determine eligibility, but more so create a connection between yourself and the mentor teacher. Ultimately, this is a relationship. In fact, if you are interested and you go through this process with us, you'll hear me say this. This is a matching event. This is a process of matching the candidate to the right mentor. It's done purposefully so that, and as you can imagine, you're going to spend almost 200 days with a mentor teacher. You want to be matched with someone that you know that you're going to be able to connect with, communicate, and work with day to day to day. And so the process that we have is one where we provide the list of eligibility requirements, such as we have a GPA of 3.0 and so forth, and that is all sent out to interested candidates. We very clearly identify that you are ready coursework, at a minimum, practicum 3, methods, student teaching, clinical assessment, right? Those things are either left over for the residency. You don't have anything else to take. We do provide flexibility if you have to take additional coursework during the residency. We do provide that flexibility. However, the more important components are the meetings and the interviews and the site visitations. This process is one where you will get to know the mentor teachers, you will get to visit the school sites, you will get to spend time with the mentor teachers and the children, you'll get to understand what they do, and they in turn will get to communicate to you and talk to you and gather information about you. They, the mentor teachers, will get to watch your lessons that your have taught in either Practicum 1 or Practicum 2. They'll get to see your lesson planning that you construct and work on. You create a little biography and they get to read that and review that. And then there are events for meeting and interviewing. And interviewing, yes, it's one-on-one kind of conversations, dialogue, so that they get a better feeling for who you are as an individual. And then, of course, is the matching component, making sure that there is a good match between candidate and mentor teacher. So this time frame is relatively still aligned. We are looking at, and that should say 2018 or 2019. Sorry about that. Not sure why that wasn't changed. I apologize. But in this month of November, information, presentations, details regarding the year-long residency will be presented to candidates. Between the months of December to February, there is an application of intent. There is also the opportunity to visit the various school sites. From February to March, we conduct interviews, and then by April to June, as you can see, we conduct professional development. We connect our mentor teachers to our candidates in various activities, events, and other visitations to schools, and then we begin our prep for fall 19. So what I will be doing from this point forward is opening it up to any questions that you may have, and I would be happy to answer any questions of any of the participants this evening for the residency option. So again, the elementary school teacher always gives everybody some wait time here. Leslie asked a great question. So Leslie, we are hoping to maintain the same number of candidates for the 2019-2020 school year. So we are looking at either 32 or 35 candidates. We would love to expand this to more, quite frankly. So it all depends on who's interested and who would like to participate. Jasmine, if you have a full-time job at a public school, that's a very good question. If you're already a full-time employee of a particular public school, usually in a para-educator position, I would assume, then this would be something that you have to truly ask yourself if this is what you want to do. In most school districts across the state of Delaware, when student teaching comes to pass, they ask their employees to quit or take a leave of absence. So, if you're working full-time and, you don't want to quit that job, the residency may not be right for you, and that's okay. And that's okay. Jennifer asks a good question. TB, don't worry about the TB and the CPR and the CPC. Those things get renewed for the residency, but it's not something you have to do right away. It's not something you have to do right this moment. Right now, all you're focusing in on is thinking about interest, thinking about if this is something I want to do, something that is connected to who I am as an individual. So you don't really have to worry about those clearance items just yet. So great question, Janice. Great question. So currently this academic year, we received a grant from the National Center for Teacher Residencies. National Center of Teacher Residencies provided us enough funding so that we could pay our candidates this academic year $14,000. Now, it's a grant, so it's only good for 1 year. So that money had to be spent this particular year and had to be earmarked for our candidates in 18-19, what's going on right now. 19-20, next academic year, we are in the process of working with multiple philanthropic organizations, and I am in the process of writing another grant so that we can have, or hope for, because it is not guaranteed, a stipend of equal value. We're hoping for an equal value stipend between $10,000 to $14,000. However, and I'll be very clear about this, that is not guaranteed. We started in year 14-15 with a $2,000 stipend provided to our candidates. Each year has expanded a little bit more. Sometimes it was the same amount, sometimes it was a little bit more. We have minimally been able to provide the stipend of at least $2,000 to $2,500 each academic year to our candidates. As you can imagine, with grants and philanthropic funding or the giving of money, right, donation to the university, that is up to the philanthropic individual or entity and or the grant that we write. And I'm in fact actually writing multiple grants because I'm not putting all the eggs in one basket, so to speak. However, the other side of this is that the university, Wilmington University, for your academic year is giving candidates a 50% reduction in tuition. So if you are selected for the residency and you engage in the residency the academic year of 1920, you would pay half the tuition that you normally would pay. Now, considering that student teaching alone is a 9-credit course, so 9 credits, either multiply that by the graduate level or undergraduate level, that's unfortunately rather expensive, right? So you can consider that deducted in half because the college president has determined and identified the power of this particular program and wishes for it to succeed and move forward. As such, we are looking at 50% reduction of tuition. Last but not least, part of this is that every school district that participates in the residency interviews. There's a promise of an interview at the end of your residency. So for each district that you saw listed, the district will interview for employment. Jasmine asks another question. That is correct, Jasmine. If you take leave of absence and you're working for a Maryland school, yeah, most Maryland schools too, during student teaching, they require you to take a leave or quit your job. That is correct. So I promised to try to keep this concise. It's about 8:45. I try to keep it under an hour. That way I don't lose everyone's attention. Please don't hesitate to ask the questions now. I'm happy to answer. Or if you would like to email me, my next steps is to provide an additional kind of virtual meeting near the end of November after your presentations. The current graduates, I should say the current year-long residency students and graduates of the program, along with the mentor teachers, will be visiting practicum 1, 2, and 3, and they'll be doing presentations. After the presentations, I hold one more meeting, and after that, I send out email notifications as to our application for interest and eligibility for the year-long residency. By that time, I'm hoping to have additional information and feedback from our various supporters as to stipend. However, our time frame is to open up the application for eligibility and interest by the end of November, so that as we move into February, we know and we have captured those candidates who are truly interested in the year-long residency experience. Rachel, you ask a very good question, and the answer is yes. So if you have any other scholarships or any other funding sources, then yes, the 50% would be on top of that. Or actually, the 50% would go in first, and then everything else pays off the rest, if you will. So looking at that question, if you have a particular scholarship and you were eligible and you participated in the residency, not only would you get your 50%, but you would also be able to apply whatever funding source towards tuition. Waiting for any other questions. An anecdotal note, I think your peers, the graduates and the current candidates, provide a much better, obviously, connection to the day-to-day. I think, hopefully, this evening, a very rough general overview of the residency, and more importantly, knowing the power of this particular option and program, the kind of support it is being recognized. And I'll say this much to you. You are, if participating in this particular program, eligible and selected, would be a part of a national network of residencies. Wilmington University's year-long teacher residency is a nationally recognized program through the National Center for Teacher Residencies. We are in very good company. We are the only residency on the Eastern Seaboard for housing undergraduate program candidates. We are also very flexible in nature in terms of our programming options with our schools. And our connection with our schools, the districts, are deep, and one in which principals who have hired our residency candidates have and are very clear as to the level of readiness. So much that by employment year 3 and 4, you go through the residency, you get employed. By employment year 3 and 4, our candidates are that much more advanced than their peers or their veteran teachers. As there's actually research that clearly states that residency candidates, by their 3rd, 4th year of teaching, are much better at teaching than their peers who went through a regular program or the veteran teachers who are in that building. So this is a very exciting program. It's a wonderful opportunity. Of course, you're not going to want to take my word for it, because again, I'm giving you the overview. The presentations done by your peers will give you more detail about what they go through day to day to day. I appreciate you joining in this evening. I'll certainly stay on a little bit longer if you have any questions for me. And Rachel does ask good questions. Will we be notified when absolutely. Rachel, there'll be multiple announcements in Blackboard. There'll be a mass email that will go out. There'll be another kind of communication that goes out to all candidates, like a various announcement. I'm holding this, if you will, as a preliminary meeting just to provide details for those who are interested right now and want to learn more. And again, I do this again later in November, and then of course then the applications will be sent out, and they'll go out via email. Great question. So if there are any others, I certainly will stay on the line here for you. If not, I wish you a great evening. Thank you for joining me this evening. It's a pleasure, and I really do appreciate the time that you've taken. Thank you. Leslie, you ask a great question. So yes, in the elementary level, there are multiple grade levels with multiple mentor teachers. In Eisenberg Elementary, as an example, we have 1st, 2nd, and 4th grade mentor teachers. So there is an opportunity for you as a candidate, if eligible and selected, you could work with mentor teachers at varying levels. Of course, we also have middle level and high school at the respective content. Janice, great question. All of our mentor teachers who are in the residency program are all special education and inclusive settings, meaning across the board, elementary, middle, and high school, there are inclusive settings for the residency candidate with the residency mentor teacher. So if you are a elementary education candidate that is getting a special education dual license, you then would be engaged in an inclusive setting. If you are a master's in special education degree individual and your content area is middle level mathematics, then absolutely, we have mentor teachers in the middle level who are special education certified, licensed in that content area. You're quite welcome, Janice and Leslie. And again, don't hesitate to ask. I'm happy to stay on. If not, again, I appreciate your time this evening. I try to keep it under an hour so we don't spend too much time. It seems that then the questions are dying off. I'm going to go ahead and say good night to everyone. Thank you again. Have a great evening and email me directly if you have any questions. Thank you.